Hi, Danny. Thank you so much for joining the PowerTalk Show today. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation and being part of a channel and sharing your insights about Apollo 21 as well as your market and industry knowledge to our audience. So, before we begin, I would like you to introduce to our audience as well as tell us a brief about what is Apollo, what does Apollo 21 do, and how does it help the upcoming startups and the new product development teams.
Absolutely. First off, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I'm Danny. I am the founder of Apollo 21. I have spent my 20 plus years career focused primarily, excuse me, pardon me,
No.
focused primarily in the space of technology and new product development, working with both startups and established companies to help them develop innovation strategies and through those strategies bring new products to life. And so Apollo 21 is about 3.5 years old, and we focus exactly on that space. So, most of our work is split between helping companies develop innovation strategies that are actionable, utilizing frameworks that are repeatable and that make innovation something beyond just a talking point. And then again, through those efforts, we work with our clients to build technology, usually in one of two forms. So either we help clients build new products and technology that they will sell to their customers, or we help them build new technology to help streamline and create efficiency with internal workflows, managing how data and work in general flow through the organization, helping to create opportunities for efficiency, automation, AI integration, things of that sort. And so we're really split about half and half between customer products and internal use products. And we think that both are a ton of fun, even though they're their own unique challenges.
Oh, thank you, Danny, for a quick overview. So when I was going through your website, I noticed something called as co-founder as a service. This is something that I believe you guys provide. Can you care to shed light on that co-founder as a service? And is it only for a startup, or is it for a full-fledged company who is doing business as well?
Yeah, so you probably saw that on the Apollo 21 Ventures section of our website. So,
Yes.
in addition to the consultative work that I just described, we also operate as a venture studio. And so, we are partnering with organizations and founders. And to answer your question directly, that could be a founder with an idea who's trying to get it off the ground, or that could be a partnership with a fully established company that is looking to explore new opportunities, bring a new business unit to life, et cetera. And we're happy working with both. The co-founder as a service idea came about because a lot of folks have sort of that idea moment, but then they reach that point of, oh, wait, I don't know how to do everything that I might possibly need to do in order to create a new business or build a new product. And so often they will start with that highly difficult co-founder search, and that's always such a difficult task to kind of put ahead of you. You don't know whether your idea sort of has legs or not, which makes it even more difficult to attract a potential co-founder. And so one of the advantages of working with Apollo 21 is that we can step in and serve as that sort of co-founder as a service type of role, which means that, if you're an idea guy or a product guy and you need technical help, then we can bring that type of capability to bear. Or if you're a technical founder and you need help with product strategy and go to market, then we can focus our efforts there and really help teams and founders fill in sort of the gaps in their existing capability set so that we can get them from 0 to 1 or 0 to hitting the ground running as quickly as possible. And that way, by the time they go to look for a full-fledged co-founder, if they feel like they need one by the time they're done with us, they have something in market, they have a validated idea. Hopefully, if they started driving revenue, they have a clearer picture of who their target market is. And so when you can go to talk to people about what you want them to join with all of those kind of things in your pocket, it makes those conversations much easier. And so we can help people get through the sort of messy beginning parts and really iron all of that out.
Understood. So basically, if you have an idea which is at a zero stage, you can help them from 0 to 10 and then maybe 10 to 50. And then if they want a co-founder, they can bring in a co-founder.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
Wonderful. What went into the naming for Apollo? Why did you choose the name Apollo? And you also have astronauts in your background. So what went with the naming?
Yes. So when I was naming the company, I was thinking about all things, venture building and new product development. And the idea of the moonshot, of course, popped into my head, which got me thinking about the original moonshot and sort of the namesake for the moniker of moonshot, which of course was the Apollo program in the old space race. And so I started doing some digging, and what I found was that the Apollo 20 mission was the last scheduled mission in the Apollo program. Apollo 17 was actually the last one that went into space. They canceled 18, 19, and 20 for budgetary reasons. And so I sort of liked the idea that we were picking up the mantle of helping companies take their moonshots and standing as next in line in, the well-rounded explorations of the Apollo program. So that led to Apollo 21. And of course, it gave us a bit of license to play in the world of all things space and NASA and all that fun stuff from a branding perspective, which, as you can see, I have a little bit of fun with.
Yes, absolutely. I can see that. So, how do you describe the current product design market? And when it comes to the venture studio industry, what do you foresee? Where is the industry heading?
I think that we are just seeing a huge uptick in what will become kind of the period of venture studios. Venture studios have been around since the 90s, but they've always been a little bit of a misunderstood kind of ideal that loses out on attention from, in lieu of like venture capitalists and things of that sort. And I think that because of the nature of where business is today and where the economy is today, we're seeing a lot more early stage companies that are focused on becoming profitable and self-sustaining early on, as opposed to focusing on getting onto the VC treadmill. And venture studios are kind of an interesting alternative to that particular model because they come with help baked in. It's part of why we call ourselves a co-founder as a service is we can literally serve in the position of a co-founder as opposed to forcing people to go out and find one or being hamstrung in their VC efforts because perhaps they don't have a technical co-founder as a product person or something of that sort. And so we can kind of step in there and become that help. And I think that we're going to see more and more founders and teams gravitating towards that type of model where they can keep their own team very lean, augment with really kind of fractional or contracted help to bring their idea to life and get much further down the path towards product market fit before they ever have to really go and raise money, which gives them the advantage of, ideally finding revenue and figuring out how their company is going to become self-sustaining and self-supported before they have to borrow other people's money. And the moment that you start taking money from a venture capitalist, for example, you've essentially established a board and given yourself a boss, and all of a sudden you have kind of limited the ability to choose when and where you want, as opposed to following the directives from somebody else. And so I think that there's a lot of freedom that comes along with that, either bootstrapped or venture studio model that founders are going to continue gravitating towards, especially over the next few years as VC money becomes harder to grab and more competitive to kind of get into the mix on.
Absolutely, absolutely. But when you say about product market fit, I read through somewhere that you have an approach where you help build customer base before you find the product is market fit. Can you just explain more about that approach? How does an organization build a customer base without having the product or getting the product into the market?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things that come to mind there. One, we are big advocates for the lean customer development process. And so, you can have a great idea, and that great idea can be grounded in your own experience or in, the things that you've heard from other people. But there's no guarantee that the idea that's in your head is going to be the perfect fit to create a business around. And in fact, I would almost argue that there's a guarantee that it will not be. You're going to be wrong somewhere. And the reason that we're huge fans of the lean customer development process is that it allows you to de-risk and close the gap between what you don't know and what your customers want before you start building something. And so, in my experience, as you go about having those conversations and talking to people and explaining what the problem is that you're aiming to tackle, how you think you can
Mhm.
solve that problem for them, etc., what you begin to do is kind of collect an audience around you. You get a group of people who are going, "Oh my God, you're going to go out and solve the problem that I have. Tell me when it's done, please." And so every one of those conversations becomes an audience member, a fan, somebody who is in your corner going, "Man, I'm really waiting for those guys to get their thing live. Can't wait for that to happen." And that audience then becomes sort of your built-in champions. They're the folks that you can turn to when you have a question about should my product do X, Y, or Z, or are people willing to pay this amount for it, or do I have to limit it to this amount, for example. And so you gain a lot of valuable insight before you ever start building anything. And of course, the build is where it gets resource intensive and therefore more expensive. And so the more work you can do ahead of time, the more you can limit how much you need to build. And what you might discover is that, of the 5 features that you were absolutely certain you needed in order to be
Yeah,
successful, audiences tell you that you only need 2 of them, for example, or
absolutely.
that 3 of them are wrong, but there's 3 other things that you want. And it's way
Yeah.
better to learn that before you go and build it than it is to do so after. Um, the other thing that I'll point out, and then I'll shut up for a moment here, is Greg Eisenberg, a well-known entrepreneur, has what he calls the let me make sure I get this right. Uh, oh God, I'm missing the middle step. He's a huge advocate for developing your audience first, building an
Mhm.
audience, leveraging them to understand what the product need is
Mhm.
that you might be able to build around, and then building the product. And effectively, what he's advocating for is exactly the process that I've just described. But it's also part of the reason that we're seeing a lot of companies that start as media first companies. Can we create an information library about a specific topic that will help people gravitate towards us so that we become known as a leader in that space before we ever create a product? It's just
Mhm.
creating knowledge and sharing that knowledge. And then once you have that audience in place who are gravitating to the knowledge, you have the ability to start asking them questions and the ability to start learning about what they want to pay for to create a true business around that idea. And so, regardless of which way you look at it, we think that there's a ton of value in the audience development and the customer development before you start building for all of the reasons that I've just talked about.
Wow. So it is absolutely, there's a lot of work needs to be done before the product, the pre-launch, not even pre-launch, I would say it's at the initial stage, as you said, something that is written on the napkin itself.
Exactly. And, we're going through this process with a very close partner right now where, they had an idea for an upcoming AI product. And of course, AI products are a dime a dozen these days, which makes this even more important. And so we've been working with them to create kind of a series of questions and things that they should be having conversations with folks about. And, because it's in a space like AI that is getting a lot of attention right now, what we're finding is that it's very easy to get those conversations. It's very
Mhm.
easy to reach out to people at well-known companies. We've been talking to folks at Carta and folks at Beehive and a number of other, highly known companies to ask them about what they might want from this type of product and
Mhm.
to gain some clarity and insight. And now we're using that to go and design what the first iteration of the product might look like. And again, that's a little bit of work, but it's just design work. It's pushing pixels. It takes hours instead of days and weeks. And we can go back to them and say, hey, last time we talked about this and you told us that you wanted this. Look, we went and designed this thing. Is this the thing that you want? And again, it gives us a chance with just a few hours of work to get further validation and further de-risked information from those people, to hear from them, yes, I want that. Oh, but
Mhm.
wait, could you also do this with it? And it's a great way for us to get ideas about our own product that we hadn't even thought of yet. I mean, I can't tell you the
Yes.
number of people that have said, the product that you just described sounds really interesting, but what I really want from it is to get to here and then let me do the thing that you just described. And had we gone and built the original thing first, we never would have known that. And when it came time to start selling, I can only imagine or guarantee that we would have had considerably more difficulty than I think we will, given the fact that we're going through this process at the very outset. And we're doing it before there's even a legal entity. There's no company right now.
Yes,
It's,
yes,
we have ideas for what the company will be and what it will be called and all of that. But right now, it's just an idea. And all we're doing is talking to people about those ideas and getting their feedback on it so that by the time we get to the point where we go from idea to reality, we know that we're that much closer to getting something valuable.
absolutely. That's very helpful information actually to for a founder or for an entrepreneur who has an idea how to take it forward. As you mentioned some companies, so I just want to understand what kind of industries do you work in, and for now till now, what has been Apollo 21's biggest success so far?
So we are largely industry agnostic. We've done work across remote guarding and security, restaurants, sports, health and fitness, music, financial services, and a bunch of other stuff that I'm probably forgetting off the top of my head. As far as biggest successes go, one of the most fun projects that we worked on was related to the sports space. We had a client in the rodeo space of all things. And so think cowboys and bull riding and, lassoing horses and all sorts of stuff that's very exciting and very fun to watch. But at least here in the US is not traditionally a space where technology has been a huge differentiator. And so when we had a client come to us and say, hey, we want to build the next major brand in the world of rodeo, but we want to do it with technology at the very heart of everything that we're creating. We saw it as a huge opportunity to kind of play in a space and to make an impact in a space where technology was generally not particularly, interesting or innovative. And so that led to the development of a number of different applications for them. We started off building a very simple data and analytics platform, and that very quickly grew to become one of the largest data sets about Western sports and rodeo that is in existence to the best of our knowledge. And then we expanded on that into operational software to help them with their marketing operations. We built out a platform for the management of the production of rodeo events. So this company is executing across all of their different brands something like 600 different rodeo events a year. So think,
Massive.
two, you know, two a week, like two a day on average kind of
Mhm.
thing. And so, executing rodeos at that scale is not easy in terms of dealing with entries and entry fees and winnings
Mhm.
and what events are you holding and all of that stuff. And so we built a platform to make that easier. And then perhaps one of the most exciting things that we built was a customer facing mobile application that was effectively designed to be sort of ESPN for the world of rodeo. So the key place that you go to stay up to date with what's happening in the world of rodeo, who's leading in team roping, what's going on in barrel racing, all of that fun stuff. And so users can sign up, they can follow their favorite athletes, they can follow their favorite disciplines, they can watch rodeos via live stream and really kind of keep up with the world of this particular area of sports in a way
Yeah.
that no other application on the market allowed for previous to our launching of that platform.
Wow, wonderful, wonderful. Danny, at last, I just want to understand from your perspective, how do you foresee the venture studio industry and the product design industry growing, and what is the near future? What do you think the future is for Apollo as well as for the industry? And
All right, there's a
this
lot
might
baked into that.
this might even help the future entrepreneurs who are working in the studio, certain startups who are actually into the ecosystem. How do they approach this?
Absolutely. Let me break that apart. So I think that as I mentioned earlier, I think we're going to see a continued uptick in the attractiveness of venture studios as a means to both fund and execute new ideas and new ventures. I think that people will begin to realize the value that having an experienced team with a distinct process in place that allows them to sort of follow a playbook as they're looking to create their new venture will become more and more attractive, especially as funding gets tighter and tighter. To answer your second question, as far as what I see as the kind of future of product design, I think that we're going to see a huge shift in terms of the impact of AI in the way that we not only think about what product design looks like, but then also in the way that we go about executing product design. So, we're already beginning to see chat-based interfaces become more and more prevalent, and I think that as as the trends continue, what we will start to see is more ability to really discuss and ask questions and query the platforms that we're using on a daily basis, probably alongside the views that we're used to seeing. So no longer will your dashboard just be a dashboard, it will be a dashboard that you can talk to and ask questions of. And no longer will your design platform or your email platform or your whatever platform just be a thing that does that and maybe gives you a little bit of analytics data around open rates or audience segmentation, but you will be able to query that in a much more interesting and, much more granular and insightful manner. And I think the other thing that will then come out of that is less need for structure around our data. I think that what we're looking at in the future is data storage will become a dumping ground that we no longer have to be careful and considered about how we put together, and we will have more ability just to start throwing everything into the pool and relying on the AI to help us sort it out on the other end as we need to understand what's going on. Um, and then in terms of how that impacts Apollo 21, we are continually shifting our business to support all of those trends. As I said, we already operate in a venture studio style model, and my hope is that over time, the balance between the consulting work that we do and the venture building through our venture studio work that we do will begin to flip. Right now we are heavier on the consulting side than we are on the venture side, and I'm anticipating that that will begin to shift and eventually the seesaw will kind of flip the other direction. um, and at the same time, every new product that we are helping people bring to life, we are considering the impacts of AI and Web3 and the changes in UX that we're seeing out in the world as we consider how those will impact what we are then building for our clients and for ourselves.
Wow. Thank you, Danny, for such a wonderful insight. And thank you so much for accepting my invitation and joining us today at a podcast and giving our audience such a wonderful insight on venture studio and product design industry as well.
Well, thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much.